want to introduce Dr. Hayes Bautista, who's going to introduce the talent coming up in the program for today, okay?
Okay.
Un aplauso para el Dr. Hayes Bautista.
Muchísimas gracias. Hoy es el 30 de abril, pero es de viernes, ¿verdad? 5 de mayo, ¿no? A ver, no se oye. 5 de mayo. Eso. Have any of you ever wondered, how many of you have ever been in Mexico on a Cinco de Mayo? I was. What happens in Mexico? Nothing. What happens here? Man, la Semana de la Raza. We start a week before, we go a week after. So the big question is, why do we celebrate the Cinco de Mayo so much here when it's not so celebrated in Mexico? I am Dr. David Hayes Bautista, Distinguished Professor of Medicine and Director of the Center for the Study of Latino Health and Culture at UCLA.
Cangrejos al combate, cangrejos al compás, un paso para adelante, los cielos para atrás. Sus risas, viva la libertad, viene esta Inquisición, ja, 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 ja. Vendrá Pachón en río y los azotará. En los artesanos se oculta por la leva y aquí el mercado lleva el Inca su guacán. Horrible contrabando, cual plaga lo denuncio, pero entre tanto anuncio repite sin cesar. Cangrejos al combate, cangrejos a compás, un paso para adelante, los cielos para atrás. Sus risas, viva la libertad, y en esta Inquisición, ja, 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 ja. Vendrá Pachón en río y los azorará.
Then, gold was discovered in Northern California.
Oro! There's gold in California! There's gold in California!
Over the next decade, waves of people came. In wagons, on ships, on horseback, and on foot. Latinos already in the state and from all over Latin America arrived early, not only mining, but also opening businesses throughout California. Mexico was one of the first countries to abolish slavery, and Spanish-speaking Californios were influential in creating the political foundations of the new U.S. state of California. They helped write the state's first ever constitution in English and Spanish, which specifically outlawed slavery. California's admission as a free state upset the delicate balance between slave and free states. The southern states interpreted Abraham Lincoln's election to mean that their property rights over slaves would no longer be protected. Nearly all southern states seceded and asserted themselves to be a new nation, the Confederate States of America, founded on the institution of slavery. And on April 12, 1861,
Attack on Fort Sumter! The Civil War has begun! Papers, 10 cents!
Did you hear? The southern states want to form their own country so that they can keep slavery. They have declared war against the Union. We are in a civil war. This man, Jefferson Davis, has been named the President of the Confederate States of America. This is bad news. You see the speech his Vice President just gave last week? Right here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Gentlemen, I, Alexander Stephens, Vice President of the Confederate States of America, believe our government is founded upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery and subordination is his natural and normal condition. Brothers, keep your armor bright and your powder dry.
Can you believe this? They really believe this stuff. And if those Confederates say that black people are meant to be slaves because they're not white, then what about us? We're not white. If the South wins, I don't even want to think about what might happen to us.
The fact that people in the South are willing to go to war to keep slavery, no lo puedo comprender.
Our rights to freedom, equality, and democracy could slip away with this war.
Then, in 1862,
France invades Mexico. This just in, La Voz de Mexico. France invades Mexico.
Did you hear? France has invaded Mexico. While the U.S. is busy fighting the Confederates, Napoleon III of France is trying to take over Mexico and overthrow its democratically elected government of President Benito Juarez with the monarchy.
And he plans to install Maximilian of Austria and his wife Carlota as Emperor and Empress of Mexico. They might cooperate with the slave states in their rebellion against the United States.
Esos franchutes ya se enojaron
Porque a su nana la pellizcaron.
Puedes insomnios con su rey
Porque en su triunfo no tiene fe.
Y mientras tanto, ¿qué los que harán?
Ocio botella o bacoñar.
Esos franchutes ya se enojaron
Porque a sus novias la pellizcaron.
Y Pamuceno, ¿qué les dirá?
Ella no quiere ser majestad.
Que aunque le pase, vuelva a cargar
Con sus guaraches y su bacán.
Esos franchutes ya se enojaron
Porque a su nana la pellizcaron.
Se hacen chiquitos, se hacen grandotes y nunca pasan de monigotes. Se hacen chiquitos, se hacen grandotes y nunca pasan de monigotes.
Latinos in California viewed the French intervention in Mexico and the U.S. Civil War as essentially two fronts in the same war. Because the majority of California's Latinos believed in freedom and democracy, they supported the Union in the U.S. Civil War and President Juarez's government in Mexico's struggle against the French.
If France conquers Mexico, who will stop them from taking over more countries?
If they get French support, the Confederates could grow too strong. They might take California. Then we might become slaves without land and without rights.
It sounds like we're already headed in that direction. The war is closing in on us. There is more and more discrimination, and we are losing battle after battle in Mexico and in the United States.
But in California, Nevada, and Oregon, Latinos read unexpected news from Puebla and immediately began celebrating with music, dances, speeches, and toasts. These celebrations marked the beginning of the Cinco de Mayo holiday, invented in California in 1862.
Long live Mexico! Long live the independence! Long live the brave Mexican soldiers! The French Harbor-Cheaters of Veracruz! Today, we celebrate our victory in Puebla against the French! And we remind the South that we will not tolerate slavery, monarchy, or any form of oppression. El Cinco de Mayo will go down in day as a history of the day of freedom, democracy, and hope. Now, raise your glasses. A toast to Presidente Benito Juárez y el General Zaragoza. ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva el Presidente Abraham Lincoln! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva la democracia y la libertad! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva
Chulas Puebla, qué linda, con sus mujeres hermosas, que tienen cara de rosa y tienen labios de guinda. Qué chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla, qué chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla.
chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla, qué chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla. Puebla bonita y bravía por tu leyenda y tu historia, Puebla cubierta de gloria, linda Puebla, tierra mía, qué chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla, qué chulas Puebla, qué linda, qué chulas Puebla.
Most of California's Latinos were convinced it was their duty to help the fight for freedom and democracy. They decided that their main contribution to the fight would be money. Throughout California and in parts of Nevada and Oregon, they formed grassroots organizations called the Juntas Patrióticas Mexicanas, which collected donations to send to Juárez's government in Mexico.
Today, we band together to join our brothers
And sisters.
Oh, yes, of course. And our sisters in the fight by forming Juntas Patrióticas Mexicanas here in California. Most of us are ordinary working people, but together we can raise the money that Mexico's troops needs to fight contra los franceses.
What's a junta patriótica, Papa?
The junta's all of us pulling together to fight for what is right, mija. The junta's our way of making change. Our way of making sure you and all the little kids grow up free and happy.
And the beautiful thing about our organization is that we come together from different countries for one fight, para la democracia.
Sí, yo soy colombiano, y Benito's from Nicaragua, and his wife from Mexico. If Mexico falls to France, what will keep them from coming after Nicaragua or El Salvador? Then Panama, Chile, or Colombia. Our fates are intertwined. You see, if one fall, we all fall. It is our collective responsibility to reach out and invite everyone to fight for this noble cause.
Yes, and I am a Californian. Mira, look, todos somos Latinos, y todos tenemos las ganas de ser libre. Now, let us go into the streets and recruit our people to nuestra causa.
After their defeat at Puebla, the French regrouped and began a new campaign the following year. After a 2-month siege, Puebla surrendered, and the French took Mexico City the next month. The men of California's Juntas Patrióticas were demoralized by the news, and donations dropped off noticeably. A few weeks later in Los Angeles, a Mexican immigrant named Francisca Manso de Cavazos called a meeting of concerned Latinas for the radical purpose of founding a Junta Patriótica made up entirely of women who would pick up where the men had left off.
Welcome. We all know what difficult times we live in and what is at stake. So thank you all for coming. Now, without further ado, let us hear from Señora Francisca Manso de Cavazos.
Conciudadanas, Soy mexicana, soy mujer, y mi corazón no ha podido menos que estremecerse al considerar los sacrificios que el pueblo mexicano está haciendo para defender la independencia, la libertad y el honor de mi patria. If our weak constitution does not allow us to take up arms to defend public liberties, this is no reason to lack the common sense that we should appreciate liberty and even sacrifice our existence. Digamos a Napoleón que si mueren todos los mexicanos, quedamos nosotras las mujeres. Nosotras también sabremos morir como heroínas, dignas del nombre mexicano. Hermanas, are you with me?
¡Sí!
¡Que viva la independencia, la reforma y la libertad de México!
¡Que viva!
¡Viva Juárez y Lincoln!
¡Que viva!
¡Libertad e independencia o muerte!
Besides raising funds, the Juntas de Señoras made Latina women visible and empowered in political life in California. The second woman to address her peers was Mexican immigrant Teodosia Enriquez de Gonzalez. She boldly stated,
I wish it were permitted for women to take up arms. With what pleasure would I go to the front lines and pay my homeland the tribute that I owe it? But distance deprives us of that pleasure. And the only thing that we can do is to send our modest donations to help the army that is helping to defend our nationhood. Paisanas, yo les invito en nombre de la patria que les ayudemos con nuestros pequeños recursos, pues somos envidiosas y no permitiremos que ellos sean más patriotas que nosotras.
Aquí no tenemos cuernos, los ponemos muchas veces. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Señora, dame un guajito con pico de filigrana para ofrecer borrachito. La verdad no tengo ganas, si me lo arrebatan grito y al cabo soy mexicana. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Es que parece que ofende un fresa sonorizada y yo le digo no entiende y al cabo el sabor se acaba. Quiero chinica de Allende hasta se le cae la baba. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Hizo fue el puro taco darme un guaje con diamantes y le dijo a mi chinaco, Francho te no antes, mi guajito vale plato, pero ya tiene marchantes. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. En la barriga del guaje han pintado a Napoleón y en el pico pintado sirviéndole de tapón, porque no se la han contado para correr la reacción. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito, ay de mí, dame un traguito para Shelly. Guajito.
when Latina women in other parts of California heard about the founding of the Junta Patrióticas de Señoras in Los Angeles, they were inspired to organize similar groups in San Jose, Marysville, Sonora, and Hornitos, at the new Almaden and Guadalupe mines near San Jose, and in Virginia City, Nevada. Every Cinco de Mayo, during the Civil War, Latinos in the American West would gather to celebrate and hear speeches. The memory of Cinco de Mayo kept alive the flames of freedom, equality, and democracy in California's Latino communities.
Thank you all for coming to the second anniversary celebration of el Cinco de Mayo. Today, a young leader and active member of our Junta Patrióticas de Señoras will speak. Please welcome Arcadia Ruiz de Alvarado. My people, we are here to celebrate the anniversary of our victory in Puebla. It was a victory not only for Mexico, but for the United States, democracy, and freedom from slavery. You see, we refuse to live as slaves. If one of us is enslaved, then all of us are. Where oppression chokes the life of one, it suffocates us all. On this great day of el Cinco de Mayo, we remember the power of hope, the power of the people to overcome great odds. And we remember that we have won in the past, and we will win again. Now, let us celebrate.
After the Confederate States of the South surrendered in 1865 and slavery was finally abolished, the United States at last was able to turn its attention to the situation in neighboring Mexico. When the U.S. threatened to come to President Juárez's aid, Napoleon III faced the prospect of fighting both the Mexican army and the U.S. He recalled his troops from Mexico, leaving Maximilian with very little support. His wife Carlota left to France to try to persuade Napoleon to reconsider. Latinos in California sarcastically waved her goodbye. Adios, Mama Carlota.
Alegre el marinero con voz pasada canta, el viento se levanta con extraño rumor, nada de los mares botando cual pelota. Adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor, del abremos la playa, te miran con tristeza, la estúpida loreza del monstruo y el traidor, el hondo de su pecho ya siente su derrota. Adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor, acábanse palacios, destruyas buenos bailes, regístense los bailes en fuerza de dolor, el chusco de las cruces y cantos que alborotan. Adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor. ¡Ay! Murmuran sordamente los tristes chambelanes, lloran los capellanes, se alza mayor, el triste chucho rosa canta con lira rota. Adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor, y en tanto los chinacos cantan la victoria, guardando tu memoria sin miedo, sin rincón, dicen mientras el viento tu embarcación agota. Adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor, adiós mamá Carlota, adiós mi tierno amor.
Her efforts did not work. Maximilian was captured by the Mexicans and executed, and Benito Juárez once again was president of a free and democratic Mexico.
At last, we are free! We won! We won!
And this is the real Cinco de Mayo. Latinos coming together to make this the amazing state you live in. Without our contributions, the U.S. might have been split apart, and slavery might have never been abolished. We helped win the Civil War because we won at Puebla on el Cinco de Mayo, and it happened because of everyday people throughout California standing up for their rights and working together for democracy and freedom. Latinas and Latinos in California and across the U.S. continue to be active in business, politics, and social causes today, upholding the cherished values of freedom, equality, and human rights. ¡Que viva el 5 de Mayo!
How about a big round of applause for Ballet, Folklorico, Flor, Let's recognize our director and choreographer, Raquel Ramirez. Raquel, where are you? And we'd like to also thank and recognize the wardrobe director, Pati Olivas. A special round of applause for executive producer of today's event, Adriana Valdez. Along with our chief of staff, Seda San Luis Greenwood, with her two children here. And especially our narrator, Alejandro Osorio. So, when people ask you, what do we celebrate? Que viva el 5 de Mayo!
Bueno, damas y caballeros, what did you think about this wonderful performance? Un fuerte aplauso. Que se escuche